Sell me that rose in Arabic, and I'll pay you $100,000. The entire room froze. Elena Cruz stopped walking. The basket of roses hung from her hand. What did you just say? Ethan Calloway leaned back in his chair, his tie loose, his tone casual. You heard me. 100,000. Say it in Arabic. People started whispering. A few phones came up. Some smiled, waiting for a scene. Elena looked straight at him. Is that a joke? No. It's business, he said. You're selling, I'm buying. Those are the terms. She didn't move. You're serious? Dead serious. 100,000 if you do it. Not a penny if you don't. At the head of the table, Kareem Al-Hassan looked over. Ethan, enough. Ethan ignored him. Come on. You walked in here with roses. You wanted attention. Now you've got it. I walked in because someone let me through the door, she said. That's all. He smiled faintly. Then prove you belong here. Elena's tone hardened. By doing what? Performing for you. He shrugged. Call it whatever you want. You sell. I pay. She nodded slowly. So, this isn't about the rose. It's about seeing if you can make me small. Don't make it dramatic, Ethan said. It's a simple deal. A deal, she repeated. A deal means both sides agree. I haven't agreed to anything. He lifted his glass. You just did, the moment you answered me. The guests laughed quietly. She didn't. Elena placed a basket on the table. You want me to say something in Arabic? Fine. But before I do, you should understand what you're asking for. Ethan leaned back again. I'm listening. No interruptions, she said. He gestured with his hand. Go ahead. Elena took one rose from the basket and laid it in front of him. You think money can buy anything. Tonight you'll find out it can't. He gave a short laugh. We'll see. She looked him in the eye. La yuba al-literam. Ethan frowned. What does that mean? It means respect is not for sale. He didn't reply. You made an offer, she said. I accepted it. You owe me nothing. Ethan leaned forward. Then why are you still standing here? Because I want you to remember this, she said. Next time you try to turn someone into a joke, make sure you can handle the answer. Kareem spoke quietly. She did exactly what you asked, Ethan. No one said anything after that. Elena picked up the rose again, set it back in the basket, and looked around the table. You came here to celebrate money. I came here to work. That's the only difference between us. Then she turned and walked toward the exit. No one stopped her. The sound of her steps carried through the hall, the only noise breaking the silence. The servers stood still, unsure whether to move. A man near the bar whispered, Did she really say that in Arabic? Another replied quietly, She did. And he didn't know what to do. Ethan's friends looked at him, waiting for him to laugh it off, but he didn't. He stared at the rose that had been on the table, its stem wet from where she'd held it. He reached for it and hesitated halfway, then pulled his hand back. Kareem looked at him for a long second. You went too far, he said. Ethan didn't look up. She walked into my event uninvited. She walked in with dignity, Kareem said. You turned it into a challenge. Ethan's jaw tightened. It was a joke. Then why aren't you laughing? Ethan didn't answer. Across the hall, a few guests began to speak again, their voices low. Someone said they should get back to the dinner, but no one picked up a fork. The entire table stayed quiet until Elena's figure disappeared beyond the door. Kareem finally stood. I'll be back, he said to no one in particular, and left the table, walking in the same direction she had gone. Ethan stayed seated, staring at the empty space in front of him. His friends tried to change the topic, talking about the auction, about stocks, about anything that would sound normal again, but it didn't work. The rose was still there, lying across the white cloth, one petal torn. He looked at it, then at the door, and for the first time all night, said nothing. Elena pushed through the side door of the ballroom and stepped into the service hallway. The noise behind her was gone. Only the hum of the air conditioner and the sound of her own footsteps followed her. She leaned against the wall and took a slow breath. The basket was still half full. A few petals had fallen inside. She bent down, picked one up, and put it back without thinking. The door opened again. Kareem Al-Hassan walked in quietly. He had taken off his jacket and was holding it over one arm. Miss Cruz, he said. She turned, still steady. If you came to tell me I ruined your dinner, I already know. That's not why I came, Kareem said. You handled that better than most people in that room would have. I just said what was true. He nodded once. That's exactly why it worked. Elena looked down the hallway. I shouldn't have come inside in the first place. The staff entrance was closed, so I used the main door. I just needed to sell enough for the night. How many roses do you sell on a normal night? 20, maybe 30. Depends who looks me in the eye long enough. And tonight, 0. Kareem smiled slightly. That may change. Elena didn't answer. She adjusted the strap of the basket and started walking toward the back exit. Kareem followed her pace. Do you know what you said back there? He asked. I know the words. I mean the effect. That sentence, respect, is not for sale. You said it with the kind of clarity that silences people. Not everyone can do that. Elena stopped walking. You think I planned it? I think you meant it. I did. He nodded again. That's what made it powerful. They reached the service door that opened into the parking area. She pushed it slightly, feeling the cold night air. Kareem's driver stood nearby, but didn't speak. Kareem said, Ethan will pretend it didn't happen. That's how people like him survive embarrassment. I don't care what he does, she said. I just wanted to leave before someone asked me to apologize. No one should. She looked at him. You know him well. Well enough to know that he hides behind confidence. He doesn't like being reminded of limits. He'll forget my name in an hour. Maybe, but he'll remember the sentence. She gave a short nod. Then I did something right. You did, Kareem said. He took a step closer. You speak Arabic well. Where did you learn it? A woman I used to work for. She ran a small grocery store near San Diego. She taught me some words when I helped her with deliveries. It stuck. What was her name? Layla Mansour. Kareem paused. I knew a Mansour once. Maybe her family. Could be. She passed away a few years ago. I'm sorry. Elena shook her head. She taught me not to apologize for things I can't change. Kareem studied her for a second. You know, if you ever want a more stable job, my foundation could use someone with your composure. She looked at him, unsure how to respond. You mean charity work? Education programs, translation, community outreach. You'd fit. I'm not sure I belong in rooms like that. You belonged in that ballroom more than half the people sitting there. Elena gave a small, real laugh. That's a low bar. Still true. She tightened her grip on the basket. I appreciate the offer, but I'm fine. I just want to go home, get some rest, and try again tomorrow somewhere else. Kareem nodded, not pushing further. You live nearby? East Side. 40 minutes by bus. I'll have my driver take you. That's not necessary. It's not a favor. It's courtesy. She hesitated, then nodded once. All right. He opened the car door for her. She climbed in, setting the basket on her lap. Kareem sat beside her while the driver started the engine. The city lights passed outside. No conversation for a few blocks. After a while, Kareem said, You know, people will talk about what happened tonight. They can talk. They will. Someone recorded it. I figured. Does that bother you? It's their phones, not mine. Let them post whatever they want. You really don't care? I care about paying rent next week. Not about people online. Kareem nodded slowly. You remind me of someone you used to know. Same calm. Same refusal to be small. Elena looked out the window. Maybe she just got tired of being stepped on. Maybe. The car slowed near a quiet street lined with small apartments. She pointed. Here. The driver parked. Elena turned to Kareem. Thank you for the ride. You're welcome. Keep my card, he said, handing it to her. If you change your mind about the job, call me. She took it, looked at it once, and tucked it inside the basket. Good night, Mr. Al-Hassan. Good night, Miss Cruz. She got out, closed the door, and walked toward the building entrance. The car stayed where it was for a moment, headlights dimmed. Kareem watched her disappear inside, before telling the driver to go. Inside the apartment stairwell, Elena stopped halfway up and sat on the step. The card was still in her hand. She turned it over, then slid it under the basket handle. She didn't know if she'd ever call, but she didn't throw it away either. She sat there for a long minute, staring at the single rose that had fallen loose inside the basket. It was the same one she'd laid on Ethan's table. She picked it up carefully, brushed off a bit of dust, and placed it back on top. Then she stood and kept walking upstairs. The next morning, Elena woke up before sunrise. The small apartment was quiet. A thin line of light came through the blinds. She sat at the table with a cup of instant coffee and the same basket from the night before. The roses were starting to fade. She took out Kareem's card and looked at it again. Then she put it under a stack of bills and stared at the wall for a long time. A sound broke the silence. The neighbor's radio from the next room, an old Spanish station. It reminded her of another small room years earlier, when she was still new to California. 3 years earlier, San Diego. Elena was standing behind the counter of a tiny grocery store that smelled like cardamom and fresh bread. The owner, a woman in her 50s, was restocking jars of olives. Her name was Layla Mansour. "Elena, the boxes in the back. Bring me 2 more of the red ones," Layla said without looking up. Elena carried them over. "Got them. Anything else?" Layla smiled. "You move fast. I like that. It's easy when the store's this small," Elena said. Layla laughed. "Small stores feed big families. Never forget that." Elena nodded and started to arrange some fruit near the register. "You get many Spanish speakers here?" "A few," Layla said, "but mostly Arabic. That's why you should learn some words. It helps." Elena looked up. "You want to teach me?" "I do," Layla said, walking over with a notebook. "Start simple. If someone says salam alaikum, you say wa alaikum salam. It means peace to you and peace back." Elena repeated the words slowly. "Wa alaikum salam." Layla grinned. "Good. Now you can greet my customers." For the next few months, Elena worked there 6 days a week. Between customers, Layla taught her phrases, how to say thank you, how to count, how to ask if someone needed help. One afternoon, a delivery truck driver shouted at Layla for being late on payment. He raised his voice so loud that people outside stopped to watch. Elena stepped forward. "Hey, calm down." She said she'll pay by Friday. The man glared at her. "This is not your business." Layla touched Elena's arm. "It's all right," she said quietly, switching to Arabic. "Lots of coffee. Don't be afraid." After the man left, Layla locked the door and leaned on the counter. "You see that, Elena? Respect disappears fast when people think you owe them something." Elena nodded. "He had no right to talk to you like that." Layla smiled sadly. "People will always test how much dignity you can lose before you break. The trick is not to lose any." That line stayed with her. A few weeks later, Layla got sick. The doctors said it was her lungs. She still came to the shop for a while, then stopped showing up altogether. Elena went to visit her one Sunday at a small apartment above a bakery. Layla was in bed, surrounded by books and old photographs. "You should rest," Elena said, setting a bag of groceries down. Layla smiled weakly. "I rest enough. Tell me about the store." "It's fine. People ask for you. I try to answer in Arabic, but they laugh at my accent." Layla chuckled. "Keep speaking. That's how you learn." She paused, then reached for a small string of prayer beads on the nightstand. "Take this." Elena shook her head. "No, it's yours." "I'm not going anywhere with it," Layla said. "You keep it. It will remind you that words have power when they're spoken with respect." Elena took the beads carefully. "I'll remember." Layla looked at her for a long moment. "Promise me something." "What?" "Never let anyone make you feel small for being kind. And when you speak, make sure your words mean something." Elena nodded slowly. "I promise." That was the last time she saw her. Now, sitting in her apartment, Elena took the beads from her pocket. The color had faded, but the letters carved into them were still clear. She whispered the same words Layla had taught her, La Yuba Alliteram. Respect is not for sale. She placed the beads back in her pocket and looked at the basket again. The roses were wilted, but one still stood straight. She picked it up and said quietly, "You'd laugh if you saw what happened last night." Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Kareem Al-Hassan, I hope you're all right. If you're willing, meet me tomorrow morning at the Crescent Cafe. 10 a.m. Elena read it twice, then put the phone down. She didn't reply. Not yet. The next morning, Elena arrived at Crescent Cafe 10 minutes early. It was a quiet place on the west side of the city, nothing fancy, small wooden tables, a few plants by the windows, and the smell of fresh bread. She sat near the back, her hands around a cup of coffee that was already getting cold. She almost left twice before Kareem walked in. He spotted her immediately, nodded to the waiter, and came straight to the table. "Thank you for coming," he said. "I wasn't sure if I would," Elena answered. "I'm glad you did." He sat across from her. For a few seconds, neither spoke. The silence wasn't awkward, just careful. Finally, Kareem said, I wanted to make sure you got home safely. I did, and I wanted to talk without 100 people watching. Elena nodded once. That part won't appreciate. Kareem leaned forward slightly. You probably don't realize it yet, but what happened last night is already all over the internet. Someone filmed the entire thing. I figured someone would, she said. Doesn't matter. It might, he said. People are arguing about it. Half say you embarrassed Ethan. The other half say you made a point he deserved to hear. I didn't go there to make a point. I went to work. I know, Kareem said. That's what made it powerful. You didn't plan it. I don't want attention, she said. I just want my life back the way it was. I understand. But attention can also open doors. I'm not looking for doors, Elena said. I'm looking for rent money. Kareem smiled faintly. Maybe both are possible. She didn't smile back. What do you want from me, Mr. Al-Hassan? To offer you something, he said simply. I meant what I said about my foundation. We help immigrant communities, language programs, education grants. You could be part of it. Elena looked skeptical. You mean work for you? Work with us, Kareem said. You understand people. You speak more than one language. You know what dignity looks like when it's ignored. That's rare. I sell flowers, she said. That's not exactly a resume. It's character, Kareem replied. And that's harder to find. She stirred her coffee, not looking up. Why me? Because last night you stood your ground. Everyone else just laughed. Even I stayed silent for too long. You didn't. Elena leaned back. Standing up in front of a crowd isn't bravery. It's anger. Maybe. But sometimes anger is the start of something bigger. The waiter came by. Kareem ordered tea. Elena didn't add anything. When the waiter left, Kareem said, There's a dinner next week, a private event for the foundation. Different kind of room, different kind of people. I'd like you to come. Elena frowned. You want me to walk into another fancy room after what happened? I want you to walk in as a guest, not as someone selling roses. And do what? Smile while they talk about donations? Just listen, Kareem said. Listen and see who they really are. I'll handle the rest. Elena shook her head. I don't belong in places like that. That's what you said about the hotel, too. She looked at him quietly for a moment. And you saw how that went. Yes, Kareem said. And it changed everything. He took out his phone and placed it on the table. You'll get a lot of messages today. Reporters, bloggers, people wanting interviews. Ignore them. If you talk to anyone, talk to me first. Why would anyone want to interview me? Because you said something everyone wishes they could say, but never do. Elena gave a dry laugh. Great. So I'm the internet's next 15-minute headline. Maybe, but you can decide what comes after. She leaned forward. You sound like someone trying to recruit me. Kareem smiled. Maybe I am. Elena didn't answer right away. She looked out the window at the traffic moving past. If I go to this dinner, she said finally, I'm not dressing up. I'm not pretending to be someone I'm not. I wouldn't expect you to. And I'm not standing up to perform again. Good, Kareem said. This time, someone else will be on the spot. Elena looked back at him. Ethan. Kareem's eyes narrowed slightly. He'll be there. He sponsors part of the foundation. She almost laughed. You want me to sit at a table with him? I want him to see you sitting there. As an equal, Kareem said. No words. That's enough. Elena thought for a moment. And if he says something again? Kareem replied calmly. Then you let me answer this time. The waiter brought the tea. Kareem thanked him, then looked at Elena again. Think about it. No pressure. She picked up her bag. You already know I'm going to say yes. Maybe, he said, but I'd rather hear you say it. Elena stood up. Fine. I'll come, but only because I want to see his face. Kareem smiled. That's a good enough reason. She left the cafe without shaking his hand. Outside, she stopped on the sidewalk, looked down the street, and let out a quiet breath. She didn't know if this was another mistake or the start of something bigger. But either way, she was walking straight into it. The event was held at a downtown convention hall, smaller than the gala, but still full of the same kind of people. Expensive suits, quiet competition, smiles that didn't reach their eyes. Elena arrived on time. She wore a plain black dress, nothing fancy, and a small silver bracelet that used to belong to Layla. She walked past the entrance desk without hesitation. Kareem had already added her name to the guest list. Inside, a waiter offered her a drink. She shook her head. The tables were arranged in a half-circle facing a small stage. On the screen behind it, the words the Al Hassan Foundation, language, dignity, and opportunity appeared in gold letters. Kareem stood near the front, talking with a few donors. When he saw her, he excused himself and walked over. "You made it," he said. "You asked," she said. "I came." He smiled. "Good. I wasn't sure if you would." "I wasn't sure either." He looked at her carefully. No cameras this time, no chaos. Just people who can do something real. "That's what you said last time," she replied. Kareem laughed quietly. "Fair point. But tonight will be different." Before Elena could respond, the room started to shift. People took their seats. On the far side of the hall, Ethan Calloway walked in with a group of investors. His suit was darker, his posture tighter than usual. He didn't see her at first. When he finally did, he stopped walking. The expression on his face changed fast. First surprise, then discomfort, then calculation. He turned to one of his colleagues, whispered something, and kept moving. Kareem noticed. "He wasn't expecting you." "I didn't come for him," Elena said. The program began. A host stepped onto the stage, introduced Kareem, and spoke about the foundation's mission. The applause was polite. As Kareem took the microphone, his eyes found Elena across the room. He started simply, "We build bridges through language. Real bridges, not the kind made of politics or charity. Last week, I saw something that reminded me why this foundation exists." Ethan shifted in his chair. Kareem continued. "A person who was ignored, mocked, and underestimated reminded a room full of people what respect means. Not as a slogan, not as a headline, but as a fact." People glanced around, uncertain. Kareem didn't mention names, but everyone knew what he was referring to. "She didn't have a title," Kareem said. "She didn't have power. But she had something everyone in this room needs more of: clarity. She said 5 words that mattered more than any speech I could give. Respect is not for sale." The audience stayed silent. Ethan leaned toward one of his guests. "He's not serious," he muttered. Elena heard him. She didn't turn around. Kareem gestured toward her. "She's here tonight. Not as a guest of pity, not as a symbol, but as proof that dignity doesn't need a stage." A few people turned to look at her. She sat still, eyes forward. Kareem finished. "That's all I needed to say. The rest of the evening belongs to those who still want to learn." He set the microphone down and walked off the stage. Applause followed, not loud but steady. Ethan stayed seated, staring at the table. After a few minutes, he stood up and walked to the back of the room. Elena watched him go, then stood as well. She caught up with him near the hallway. "Leaving early?" He turned, his voice low. "You really enjoy this, don't you?" "What?" "Being the moral hero of the week." "I didn't ask for that." "You didn't have to. You humiliated me, and now he's using you to make a point." Elena crossed her arms. "You humiliated yourself, Ethan. I just refused to play along." He took a step closer. "You think you won something that night?" "No. I think I stopped losing." He hesitated. For a second, his voice softened. "I didn't mean for it to go that far." "You did," she said quietly. "You just didn't expect me to answer." Ethan looked away, jaw tight. "You made me a joke." "No," she said. "I made you listen." He exhaled, rubbed the back of his neck, and finally said, "What do you want?" "Nothing," she said. "Keep your money. Keep your image. Just remember what I said." He looked at her again, tired. "You're not what I thought." "I know," she said. "That's the problem with how you think." Kareem appeared in the doorway. "Everything all right here?" Ethan straightened. "Perfect," he said quickly, and walked away. Kareem watched him leave. "You didn't have to engage him." "I know," Elena said. "But I wanted to finish the conversation he started." Kareem nodded slowly. "You did." They stood there for a moment, hearing the muffled applause from inside. Kareem said, "You handled that with restraint." Elena smirked. "I've had practice." He smiled back. "I can see that." She glanced at the exit. "Is your offer still open?" "Yes," he said. "Then I'll take it." Kareem didn't hide his satisfaction. "Good. I'll have my office call you tomorrow." Elena nodded. "Thank you. But just so you know, I'm not here to smile for photos or pretend to be anyone's story." "I wouldn't ask you to," he said. "You've already got your own." She looked toward the ballroom one last time. The night before, She'd walked out of a room full of laughter. Tonight, she walked out of one full of silence. Either way, she knew which sound felt better. The next morning, Elena's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Notifications piled up faster than she could clear them. Videos, comments, tags, messages from people she'd never met. Someone had filmed her standing up to Ethan again, this time at the foundation dinner. It was already everywhere. She sat at her small kitchen table with a piece of toast she hadn't touched. The sunlight cut through the blinds and hit the old prayer beads next to her coffee cup. She turned off her phone and sat in the quiet for a while. A knock came at the door. When she opened it, Kareem was standing there. "I figured you might not check your phone today," he said. "You figured right," Elena replied. "It hasn't stopped since 6 in the morning." "I thought so," he said. "May I come in?" She stepped aside. "Sure. It's not much." He looked around the small apartment. "It's enough." She poured him coffee without asking. He nodded in thanks and sat across from her. "They're talking about you everywhere," Kareem said. "News outlets, podcasts, social media. Some call you brave, some call you disrespectful. Depends on who's talking." Elena gave a short breath through her nose. "That's the internet. They need sides." He nodded. "True, but the attention has value. If you use it right." "I'm not an influencer," she said. "I don't need followers. I just need quiet." "I didn't mean it like that." The foundation received twice the support overnight. Donations, messages, volunteers. "You move something bigger than you realize." She leaned back. "I didn't move anything." "You did by putting me there." Kareem shook his head. "You spoke. I just made sure someone heard." They sat in silence for a moment. He finally said, "Our board met this morning. They want to offer you a position. Communication and outreach. It's not charity work, it's a proper job. Salary, training, full-time." Elena looked at him, uncertain. "You're serious?" "I don't joke about work." She thought for a moment. "You sure the board agrees?" "They insisted," he said. "Half of them think hiring you is good publicity. The other half think it's the right thing to do. I don't care which half wins. You still get the job." She gave a small, tired smile. "That's honest. I don't believe in pretending," Kareem said. "You'd be based here in Los Angeles. We'd train you, maybe send you to community centers, schools, translation programs. It's real work." Elena looked down at her coffee. "You trust me to represent your foundation after all this?" "I trust what I saw. You don't perform for people. That's exactly what the job needs." She nodded slowly. "I'll think about it." "Take a day," Kareem said. "Not longer. You'll start getting offers soon. Interviews, talk shows, maybe even brands. Everyone will try to use your name. Say no to all of them." She gave him a look. "And listen only to you." "Listen to yourself," he said. "But remember who was in that room when you said those words." Elena folded her hands. "You're right. You were." He stood, ready to leave. "I'll send the details this afternoon. We can start Monday if you say yes." She followed him to the door. "You really believe this can work?" "I do," Kareem said. "Because people remember truth longer than noise. Right now, you're the truth they remember." He left without saying goodbye. Elena closed the door and leaned against it. The apartment felt smaller than usual. She walked back to the table and picked up her phone again. Her inbox was flooded. Messages from journalists, strangers, even former classmates she hadn't spoken to in years. She scrolled slowly until one subject line caught her eye. From Ethan Calloway. Subject: "I owe you a conversation." She stared at it for a long time. Then she set the phone face down and walked to the window. Outside, the city was loud. Buses, sirens, traffic. The kind of noise she could live with. She whispered to herself, "Respect is not for sale." Then she picked up the phone again. Elena chose a quiet cafe near Union Square. She arrived early, sat at a corner table, and waited with her hands folded around a cup of black coffee. She didn't check her phone. She didn't rehearse what to say. She had no interest in arguing. She just wanted it done. At exactly 11, Ethan walked in. He spotted her right away. No security, no entourage. Just him. Dark shirt, no tie this time. He hesitated before crossing the room, like someone walking into court. "Thanks for meeting me," he said. "I almost didn't," she replied. "I would have understood." He sat down. The waiter came, took his order, and left. For a few seconds, neither spoke. Finally, Ethan said. You probably think I'm here to apologize. I don't think about you at all, Elena said. You asked to meet. So talk. He looked down at his hands. I watched the video from the foundation. The one where Kareem mentioned you. You didn't even look at me. There was nothing to look at, she said. I deserve that. You did. He nodded once, like he was forcing himself to agree. I shouldn't have done what I did that night. It was stupid. It wasn't stupid, she said. It was cruel. He didn't argue. I don't know what I was trying to prove. Maybe that I could still control a room. Maybe that I was bored. You proved both, Elena said. You just didn't like how it ended. He smiled faintly. You're right. I know I am. Ethan leaned back. Kareem offered you a job. He did. You're taking it? I haven't decided yet. You should, he said. He's one of the few people in that world who actually means what he says. You know him well enough to tell me that. I know him well enough to know he doesn't forgive easy, Ethan said. And he's already forgiven you for embarrassing me. That means something. Elena raised an eyebrow. You think I need his forgiveness? No, Ethan said. I think he respects you. That's different. She took a slow sip of coffee. Respect's not a word I expect to hear from you. I know, he said quietly. I earned that. You earn a lot more than that, she said. You humiliated me in front of 100 people. You made a bet with someone's dignity. That's not a mistake. That's who you are. Ethan looked straight at her. Maybe it was who I was. You think one conversation changes that? No, he said, but it's a start. She didn't answer right away. Why did you ask to see me? Because I don't want that moment to be the last thing you remember about me. It's the only thing that matters. He nodded slowly. I figured you'd say that. The waiter brought his coffee and left. Ethan stared at it for a while before saying, Do you believe people can change? Elena answered without hesitation. Not when they change for an audience. He looked up. You think that's what this is? I think you came here to fix your reputation, not to face what you did. That's not true. Then why the cameras last time? She asked. Why the crowd, the bet, the money? None of that was about me. It was about how you looked. He didn't defend himself. He just said, You're right. Elena set down her cup. You want me to believe you're sorry? Then don't say it. Show it. How? Start with the people who can't speak for themselves, she said. Fund something useful. Not another gala. Real work. The kind that doesn't get applause. Ethan nodded slowly. If I did that, you'd believe me? I believe you're trying. That's a start. Maybe. He looked at her again. I didn't expect you to be this direct. I don't have time for anything else. He gave a short laugh. You sound like Kareem. He listens, she said. You perform. That one hit. Ethan looked down, then back up. Can I ask you something personal? Go ahead. When you said those words that night, did you plan them? No, she said. They just came out. Then why Arabic? Because the man who tried to humiliate me didn't expect me to understand his world, she said. So I spoke in one he couldn't. Ethan took that in quietly. Fair. She stood up. We're done here. He looked up fast. That's it. That's all there's left to say. He reached for his wallet. Let me at least pay. I've handled worse bills. Elena. She stopped him with one look. Don't use my name like it means we're friends. He nodded once. Then I'll just say good luck. She picked up her bag. I don't need luck. He watched her leave through the glass door. For a long time, he didn't move. When the waiter came back to clear the table, Ethan finally said, Leave her cup. The waiter nodded and walked away. Ethan sat alone, staring at the empty chair across from him. By Monday morning, the story had spread everywhere. News sites called her the florist who changed the room. Talk shows replayed clips of her speaking Arabic, adding dramatic music over it. People argued online about class, respect, and arrogance. Elena didn't read any of it. She kept her phone on silent and went about her morning as usual. At 9 o'clock sharp, there was a knock at her door. Kareem stood outside, holding a folder. You said Monday, he said. I like people who keep their word. I didn't say yes yet, Elena replied. I know. That's why I'm here. She let him in. He placed the folder on her small kitchen table and sat down. Everything's ready if you decide to take the job. Contract, schedule, salary. Nothing hidden. She poured him coffee again, same as before. You show up like this for everyone you hire? Only the important ones. Elena sat across from him. You're serious about this position? Completely. You'd be in charge of public programs, community events, translation initiatives, mentorship. You'd speak for people who never get a microphone. I'm not a speaker, she said. I just said one sentence at the wrong time. It was the right sentence, Kareem said. In the right time. She stayed quiet for a moment. I don't have a college degree. You don't need one. You have experience that can't be taught. She opened the folder. The contract was clear, no fine print, no charity tone. It was a real offer. This pay rate is too high, she said. Kareem smiled slightly. It's standard. It's not what I'm used to. Then get used to it. Elena leaned back. You really believe people like me can fit into that world? Kareem nodded. Not fit in. Change it. She gave a faint smile. You talk like that's easy. It's not, he said. But you've already done the hardest part. What's that? Being seen for who you are. She looked down at the papers. You sound like you're recruiting me again. Maybe I am. Good people don't apply twice. She took a deep breath, then signed the last page. Fine. I'll do it. Kareem extended his hand. She shook it once, firm and brief. Welcome to the foundation, he said. What exactly happens next? You start tomorrow. Orientation at the downtown office. You'll meet the team, see what we actually do. Do they know who I am? They know the story, Kareem said. But I'll make sure they see the person. Elena nodded. Good. I don't want to be anyone's symbol. You won't be. You'll be staff. She smirked. That sounds better. Kareem stood. By the way, Ethan reached out this morning. He wants to meet with the foundation. Elena's expression didn't change. For what? He says he wants to fund a community education grant. Large sum. Trying to clean up his image. Maybe. But if his money can build something real, I don't care what his reason is. Elena thought about that. You'd work with him again? I work with anyone who wants to do something right, even if they arrive late to it. She crossed her arms. You'd let him into your programs, after everything. I let him pay for them, Kareem said calmly. That's different. Elena couldn't help but laugh. That's fair. He smiled. You'll see soon enough. Sometimes the people with the most guilt build the best tools for change. She nodded. Then let him spend it. The world could use a little guilt money. Kareem picked up the empty coffee cup. I like how you think. He looked around the apartment again before leaving. You should move closer to the office. I'll have someone help you find a place if you want. I'll manage. I'm sure you will. He started toward the door, then turned back. You might not realize it yet, but what you're starting, it's bigger than that night. I'm not chasing fame, Kareem. I know, he said. That's why people trust you. He left, and the apartment went quiet again. Elena looked down at the signed contract. It felt heavy in her hands, heavier than she expected. She folded it neatly, placed it inside a drawer, and looked out the window. Across the street, a flower stand was setting up for the day. The man arranging the buckets waved at her. She waved back, then smiled faintly. For the first time in weeks, she didn't feel like she was selling something. Elena's first week at the foundation moved fast. No spotlights, no cameras, no applause, just desks, calls, and long meetings about programs she barely understood at first. Kareem introduced her to a small team of 5, 2 coordinators, 1 translator, and 2 interns who already knew her name before she walked in. Welcome, one of them said. You're kind of famous. I'm not, Elena replied. I just had a bad night that turned public. They laughed, but she didn't. She opened her laptop and got to work. By Wednesday, reporters were waiting outside the building. They shouted questions every time someone walked through the glass doors. Elena, do you regret what you said? Are you and Mr. Calloway on good terms now? Is this all a publicity stunt for the foundation? She didn't answer any of them. Security had to escort her through a side entrance. Inside, Kareem was already waiting. You've seen the headlines, he said. I've avoided them. Good. But you should know what they're saying anyway. He handed her a printed article. The florist who stood up, now the face of a movement. Elena scanned it. They make it sound like I'm running for office. That's the price of being right in public, Kareem said. I didn't sign up to be anyone's symbol, she said. I just want a normal job. This is a normal job, he said. But what you did isn't normal. You made people uncomfortable. That doesn't fade overnight. She sighed. I didn't make a speech. I said one sentence. Exactly, Kareem said. One sentence can echo longer than a speech. Later that afternoon, she walked to the community hall they sponsored in East LA. The program manager, a woman named Nora, showed her around. We do evening classes here. English for adults, Arabic for kids who lost the language at home. It's small, but it matters. Elena listened carefully, nodding. You teach both languages? Sometimes in the same room, Nora said. That's what we're trying to expand. Kareem said you help us organize that. I can try, Elena said. Nora smiled. That's all anyone can do here. The hall was simple. Plastic chairs, whiteboard, faded posters, but alive with sound. Kids laughed in the next room. A man in his 60s practiced English sentences from a worksheet. Elena stood by the doorway, watching. It was the first time in weeks she felt calm. That night, back in her apartment, she finally turned her phone on. Dozens of messages lit up the screen again. Some kind, some cruel, some pretending to care. She opened one from an unknown number. It was short. Ethan, I saw the headlines. I donated to the program Kareem mentioned. Don't answer. I just wanted you to know I meant it. Elena read it twice, then put the phone down without replying. A few minutes later, a notification popped up, a news alert. Ethan Calloway pledges $1 million to Language Education Fund. She didn't react. She just stared at the screen, expression steady. Then she turned the phone off again and returned to her notes for work. The next morning, Kareem stopped by her desk. He made the donation. I saw. Any comment? He asked. None. Good, Kareem said. Let's keep it that way. He looked over her notes and said, You've already written a full plan for next month's workshops? I couldn't sleep, she said simply. Work helps with that, he said. She nodded. It does. He placed a folder beside her keyboard. Media still wants a statement. If we don't give one, they'll start making things up. I don't owe them anything. I know, but I owe them a distraction, he said. If you're willing, I'd like you to speak at the next press event. Just a few words. She frowned. You just said I shouldn't feed the story. I said you shouldn't feed the noise, Kareem replied. This is different. You be speaking for the program, not yourself. Elena thought for a moment. If I do, I want full control of what I say. You'll have it, Kareem said. No scripts. No PR edits. She nodded slowly. All right, I'll think about it. Good, he said, smiling faintly. Just remember who you're speaking for. I will, she said. For Layla. For the people who actually need the language. He nodded once, satisfied. Then you'll do fine. That evening, as the office lights dimmed, Elena stayed behind, reading through class lists and attendance reports. Her desk was cluttered with papers, sticky notes, and 2 roses from a student who'd recognized her. The janitor passing by stopped. Long day, she smiled tiredly. They're all long now. He nodded. At least this time, they pay you for it. When he left, she looked down at the flowers again. No audience, no challenge, no money on the table, just quiet work. She exhaled and whispered to herself. This is what it should have been from the start. Then she turned off the desk lamp and locked up. The auditorium was full. Not a gala this time. No crystal lights, no champagne, no press waiting for scandal. Just rows of chairs, teachers, students, and volunteers. The foundation's banner hung behind the small stage. Language connects us. Kareem stood near the front, speaking with reporters. He spotted Elena as she walked in and gave her a short nod. Ready, as I'll ever be, she said. He smiled. You'll be fine. No speech is written for you. Just say what you want to say. I plan to. He gestured toward the podium. You go on after me. She nodded and took a seat near the side. Kareem's introduction was short. Our foundation believes language can restore dignity. But belief means nothing without proof. Tonight, you'll hear from someone who turned those words into action. He stepped aside. The room went quiet as Elena walked to the microphone. She looked out at the faces, workers, parents, children, teachers. None of them rich, none of them pretending to be. She adjusted the mic and said simply, Good evening. Some of you know me. Most of you don't. My name's Elena Cruz. A few months ago, I was just a florist trying to make rent. I walked into a room that wasn't mine and got reminded of it fast. A few people smiled faintly. She continued, calm and clear. Someone tried to test me with money. $100,000 just to make a fool out of me. I didn't take it. I answered him in a language he didn't expect. One I learned from a woman who believed words only matter when they carry respect. She paused. That night went viral. People turned it into a story about courage or pride or revenge. But it wasn't any of that. It was just a reminder. If you let someone strip away your dignity once, they'll do it again. And no amount of money will fix it. The hall stayed silent. No music, no movement, just listening. I work here now, Elena said. I get to see people learning to speak again, in English, in Arabic, in Spanish. They come here for language, but what they really find is confidence. The kind that doesn't depend on how much you earn or what room you're standing in. She looked at the front row. Ethan was there. She'd seen him when she walked in. He hadn't said a word all night. Now he met her eyes, steady, waiting. Elena didn't look away. Someone once told me respect isn't for sale. I believe that more now than ever. But I've also learned something else. Respect grows when you give it away. That's what this foundation does. That's what I'm here for. She nodded once, stepped back from the microphone, and the room began to clap. Not the shallow applause of rich donors. This one was real. Kareem joined her on stage. You did well, he said quietly. I said what I needed to. He turned to her. Do you want to meet the sponsors? I already saw one, she said, glancing toward Ethan's table. Kareem followed her gaze. He donated more than anyone tonight. I know, Elena said. That's his way of speaking. Kareem studied her face. You're not angry? No, she said. People change. Or they try to. That's enough. Kareem smiled. Maybe you should tell him that. She shook her head. He already heard it. Outside the building, the air was cold and clean. Ethan caught up as she reached the curb. You spoke well, he said. Thanks. He hesitated. You were right about everything. I know, she said. Now go prove it. He nodded once. I'm working on it. I hope you are. They stood there for a second. No cameras, no crowd. Then she turned and started walking toward the bus stop. He watched her go, but didn't call out. Kareem stepped outside a few minutes later and joined him. He let her walk away again. She doesn't need me to stop her, Ethan said. No, Kareem replied. She never did. They both looked toward the streetlights, fading into the distance. An hour later, Elena sat on the bus, her bag on her lap and the prayer beads wrapped around her wrist. The city lights flashed against the window, blurring in and out like short memories. She thought about Layla, about the store, about that first night with the roses, and finally about tonight. Her own voice filling a room without anyone trying to silence it. The bus slowed near her stop. She stood, adjusted the strap of her bag, and stepped out into the cool air. Behind her, the city kept moving. Ahead, the street was quiet. She started walking home, the beads still in her hand, her steps even and sure. For the first time, there was no audience, no test, no noise. Just her. And that was enough.